Ukrainian President Zelensky is exploiting this war against Iran and is trying to drag Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE into a major world war. Meanwhile, we see that the UAE has started very dangerous escalatory steps against Iran, steps that will inevitably lead to very serious consequences, which might even result in the UAE ceasing to exist as a country. Meanwhile, there are four pillars that Israel has always relied on, but now they are starting to collapse at the hands of Iran. How is that happening? This is our topic for today. Stay with us. Dear viewers, peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings, and welcome to our program today in this renewed discussion, God willing, as part of our ongoing opinion series. To keep up with the latest developments of this war taking place in the Middle East between Iran and the Epstein coalition. Our topic today, dear viewers, starts with these suspicious moves being made by the Ukrainian President Zelensky. It is clear today, dear viewers, Zelensky is trying as much as possible to exploit this war against Iran, perhaps in the worst possible ways, because Zelensky or Ukraine now wants to drag the region and the whole world into a major world war. They want as much as possible to involve some countries in these wars. Now, Zelensky talks about nothing except Russia. Russia supports Iran. Russia does this and that, to the point that today, if anything happens in this war between Iran and the Epstein alliance, whatever happens, Zelensky comes out and says this is because of Russia. Russia is the reason. The latest of these statements, for example, was just today. Zelensky made a statement saying that Russia is the one providing Iran with military intelligence, and that it is Russia supplying Iran with satellite images for this war. The military base is located in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, the UAE, and so on. It's as if he's saying that the source of all evil in the region comes from Russia. So the dangerous thing today is that Zelensky is playing a devious game, because he wants to link this war in Ukraine with this war with Iran, meaning the war between Ukraine and Russia. He wants to connect it to an Iranian war against the coalition. Epstein wants to divide the world between those who are with the West and those who are with Russia or the East. He wants to turn this war in Ukraine into a world war that everyone gets involved in. So 2 days ago, dear viewers, there was a visit made by Zelensky to Saudi Arabia and to the UAE. This visit was only to exploit this war against Iran and to take advantage of the attacks that the Gulf countries are suffering from in this war by Iranian drones. What did Zelensky come to say? That Ukraine has the solution for you. That Ukraine has the right weapons to intercept these drones and has enough experience for that. Meaning that the purpose of the visit is to offer Ukrainian defense services to Saudi Arabia and the UAE. The German newspaper Die Welt said, "There is no army in the world that has practical experience in repelling attacks by Iranian drones." From what we've seen, other than the Ukrainian army, the German newspaper said that the Ukrainian army is the only one in the world that can do this, as it has enough practical experience according to them. What did Zelensky say? He said that Ukraine is fully prepared to share this experience and that these Ukrainian systems are being produced with Saudi Arabia. In fact, today the Ukrainian army really does have experience in this field, because we can say it's been more than 3 years now. And Ukraine in this war with Russia is trying to intercept the Iranian drones, Shahed in Ukraine, the drones that are called geranium today in Russia. But if we look closely at this matter, this experience is actually not successful at all. I mean, after more than 3 years of this war, these Russian drones are still successfully striking Ukrainian targets every day. So there are major doubts about these capabilities they talk about in Ukraine, and there are also major doubts about the Ukrainians' efficiency in this matter as well. Up until now, there is nothing tangible. I mean, all there is just talk, nothing more. I mean, it's too early today to discuss the effectiveness of the Ukrainian system they're talking about, the one they're promoting in all the Western media. They say that Ukraine has developed small low-cost drones that they launched to intercept the Iranian drones. But are these drones really effective, and have they actually succeeded? The matter is unclear. I mean, up to this moment, there is nothing tangible. So Zelensky came to Saudi Arabia and he went to the UAE to convince them that he can provide them with this technology and thus open factories for these interceptor drones on Saudi and Emirati soil. And that's why maybe some people will wonder why he wants this. What is Zelensky's real goal, or what are Zelensky's real goals? In fact, there are 3 goals. The first goal: why did he choose these countries to secure enough funding for this project? He wants Saudi Arabia and the UAE to be the ones funding the establishment of these factories, and this goal is a normal one, a very simple goal, and it might even benefit Saudi Arabia and the UAE because it's an investment. So, any country, no matter which one, wants to find funding or attract investments to open such factories, and any country wants to acquire such technology as a specific weapon and to manufacture this weapon locally in that country. The problem lies in the second goal and in Zelensky's third goal, because we find that the second goal, and what does it mean for Ukraine to secure supplies of these weapons, these systems, or these drones from outside its territory, from a third country? Because today the biggest challenge Ukraine is facing. And what does it mean that Russia destroys Ukrainian military factories just days or a few weeks after they are established? So imagine that Ukraine sets up a secret factory to produce these interceptor drones. But after a short period, maybe days, maybe weeks, Russian intelligence manages to discover this factory again and then destroys it. So now Ukraine may have found the solution. Ukraine's idea is for this factory to be outside Ukrainian territory in a third country, and from there the Ukrainian army can be continuously supplied with these drones. So Zelensky here chose Saudi Arabia and the UAE for this mission, first because they have enough money to invest, as I mentioned, and second because they are also exposed to Iranian drone attacks, which means it was easy to convince them of this. And the third reason is also because both countries don't have a labor problem. Both of them can bring in cheap labor, like from Bangladesh, India, and so on. But the dangerous thing is this third goal for Zelensky, who wants to involve the Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE in this war against the Russians, not against the Iranians, only against the Russians. He wants to make Russia a common enemy for everyone, not just for Ukraine, but for Saudi Arabia, the UAE, all the Western countries, and so on. Pay close attention, this plan is a very dangerous one. Zelensky is presenting this proposal to Saudi Arabia and the UAE. At the same time, he is promoting the idea that Russia is the one pushing Iran to strike these American military bases in the region on the territory of these countries. That means it is the one providing enough intelligence information about the locations of the American army in the UAE. These hotels, the room number, the exact hotel room where American army officers are staying, maybe the accommodation includes a very large number of American soldiers and other such information. It's Russia that sends satellite images to Iran so that the Iranian army can strike the targets with very high precision. So Zelensky's real goal is to convince these countries that our enemy is one, Russia and Iran both together, and that this Russian-Iranian alliance is in this war. The Middle East is also threatening Ukraine, just in a different region. Therefore, convincing them that they must work together to repel this aggression or this threat. So, dear viewers, the dangerous thing here that everyone should pay attention to is that Zelensky, with this move, is leading these countries and the whole world toward a very dangerous division, which will lead us all to a major world war. The world will be divided between East and West, because today, if Saudi Arabia and the UAE move in the direction that Zelensky wants for the Middle Eastern countries, they are preparing to become the ground for this major world war. Because at that point, this war in the Middle East will turn into a full-scale war between the Epstein Alliance and the Palestine Alliance. This is exactly Zelensky's real goal, to drag the world into a major war against Russia and against Russia's alliance so that Ukraine does not collapse. He wants to drag the entire world. And so, dear viewers, yesterday we saw how Iran targeted a Ukrainian warehouse in Dubai that contained these systems, these interceptor drones, and had 21 Ukrainian officers inside. So there is a very serious escalation from this side. Today the UAE has also started a very serious escalation against the Iranians. Today the UAE cancelled the golden visas, known as the golden visa, for all Iranian citizens. In fact, more than that, they have seized and confiscated about $530 billion of Iranian funds and assets in the UAE. So be very careful. This means we are entering a very serious shift, entering a dangerous economic war and an open war. It means that now the UAE is openly moving to announce its joining of an alliance and therefore its participation in this war. So the matter is very serious for a small and completely exposed country like the UAE. I mean, maybe this country, the UAE, will cease to exist, will be wiped off the map because of this dangerous escalation. And this is known worldwide. Small countries cannot withstand any war, especially a country like the UAE. I mean, it's a desert country with towers. This also represents the biggest challenge for Israel today, almost the same challenge. What's happening in Israel? Is there reverse migration? This reverse migration from Israel has recorded an increase of 59%. Compared with the Gaza war, there's a huge difference. Some reports said that 3,500 Israeli scientists fled Israel and emigrated to Europe or America because of this war. Today, when we review the Israeli security strategy, we find that it was based on four main pillars. Four pillars. The first pillar is relying on the policy of divide and conquer, creating conflicts between Arab and Islamic countries, border disputes, ideological conflicts, and so on, keeping them busy with their internal and border problems and so on. We always see this. The second pillar for Israel is intelligence superiority, buying loyalties, recruiting agents, and internal traitors. The third pillar for Israel is absolute military and technological superiority through a monopoly on weapons. This means making these countries see America's greatness over Israel, selling weapons to it, while preventing the rest of the region's countries from getting them, and only allowing them to buy military scrap, weapons that are completely useless. Then, the fourth pillar is offensive deterrence, making all the countries in the region afraid and terrified of any sudden Israeli attack, because such an attack would target the leaders of these countries, and these leaders are exposed. Why? Because they live in specific luxurious palaces that are known to everyone. But today we find that these four pillars have started to collapse because of one country, because of Iran. Iran is the only country in the region that is shaking these four pillars. Why? Because today it is working on forming blocs and alliances with the resistance after the countries refused to do so with the resistance. And it is doing everything possible to improve its relations with all the countries in the region, which means the policy of divide and conquer does not work. With Iran, we find that Iran is the only country that succeeds in carrying out intelligence penetrations inside Israel. From time to time, we hear that there is a cell or individuals being arrested in Israel because of their intelligence cooperation. The latest of such news was just 2 or 3 days ago when a child, a minor, about 14 years old, was arrested for cooperating and providing Iran with information. This means that the intelligence superiority that Israel once had is no longer effective against Iran. In fact, Iran has started to compete with Israel in this field. We also find that Israel's military superiority no longer has a significant impact on Iran because Iran has found a successful formula to counter that. With these hypersonic ballistic missiles and these drones, meaning with other deterrent weapons, and then we also see the Israeli offensive deterrence. It is no longer effective against Iran either in this war. It has become clear that this is no longer effective, because today Iran has succeeded in gaining strong immunity on this front. To the extent that the assassination of the country's top leader, the supreme leader, had no negative impact on the country. In fact, it backfired and served the country even more in strengthening social cohesion among Iranians, meaning the unity of the Iranian people and so on. So these four Israeli pillars, which Israel has relied on for many decades, are starting to collapse today, and they are starting to collapse at the hands of Iran. That's why I say that the prospect of demise is rapidly approaching today. This war is not an ordinary war at all, and because of this war, we will witness events and very significant developments in the coming phase. That's all we have for today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. See you next time.